Tonight, the city of Lagos waits at the dog as all routes.
Be the first to know. From the north, south, east, west, and around Africa, we break the news.
One Nigeria.
Now you can catch all the actions live as the news breaks. We are Core TV News.
Welcome to Core TV,
24-hour news station.
The exorbitant hike in school fees at the Lagos State University is one of the reasons cited for declaring the indefinite strike.
As from today, Tuesday, 20th of May, 2014, we, the academic staff members of Lagos State University, are withdrawing our services to embark on a total, comprehensive, and industrial strike action.
Idris stated that apart from the fee hike, there are other demands that have not been addressed, saying all avenues have been exploited to avert the strike, but the government remained adamant.
First and foremost, the exorbitantly high school fees regime of the university, whose glaring effect is coming very clear with its negative impact on students' enrollment and academic staff career development. The non-promotion of many academic staff who are qualified and due for promotion for the untenable reason of no vacancy. The premature retirement of our members on the professorial cadre. The meetings with the Chancellor also made a lot of promises to the union. However, because of the peculiar position of the Chancellor, a number of the things he would have loved to do could not be done. We also had meetings with the Pro-Chancellor, Mr. Bode Augusto, who is the chairman of council. The first meeting was a town hall meeting on Tuesday, the 23rd of April 2013, at the new auditorium in Lasu, Ojo campus. The 2-hour meeting was called, and the Pro-Chancellor simply asked some questions regarding how to improve the university, and thereafter made some very useful and forward-looking suggestions. Questions were not taken from the union leaders regarding our demands.
The Public Relations Officer, Lagos State University, Kayode Sutton, says the management of the university is yet to be informed about the strike.
And as I'm speaking with you, officially I've not been communicated here that ASU has actually declared a strike. There are about 21 demands by ASU Lasu. And of the 21 demands, the management have been able to meet about 17 or 18 of it, leaving these 3 that I just mentioned. The issue of the Universities Act that was signed into law by the President sometimes in 2012. The issue of the supposed no vacancy, no promotion, I don't see it as being an issue here, because as I speak with you, about 256 vacancies were declared by this university exclusively for ASU.
Some students of the university supported the union, saying they are preparing to take to the streets of Lagos to protest the hike in the fees.
There's a saying that if you think education is expensive, then try ignorance. But then, what happens if education really becomes financially expensive for the average Nigerian? What happens when you have the money, but the schools where you're supposed to enroll for education is on strike? Now, today, we're looking at Lasu in the eye of the storm. I'm joined this morning by the ASU Chairman, Lagos State University Chapter, Dr. Adekunle Idris. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
Thank you for finding time to join us today.
It's a pleasure.
As established earlier in the report we saw, we could familiarize ourselves a little bit with the core demands of the academic staff union ASUs here, union of teachers, especially in Lasu. But then the question that readily comes to mind is, why strike just last year, we had a general ASU strike that lasted for 6 months, 2013. Now, one begin to ask the question that do all those demands, if met, do they justify the implication or the rot that this space in time that we call strike, the damage that it would have made on the quality of education that we're trying to protect? How do you react to that?
Thank you very much. The issue of justifying an action, it's not something you quantify just like that. The first question we should be asking ourselves is this. The issues at stake, do they have an impact on the educational sector? If you ask ourselves those questions and we have answers to those questions, then we can see what impact are we talking about. We'd like to start by saying that it is highly regrettable that at any point in time, a strike action has to be embarked upon. Academics and lecturers are parents. We are also a part of this society. We are not from the blue moon. We are part of the system. We have children in the system, and we understand what it takes to shut down an institution. However, we need to ask ourselves some questions. The way Nigeria is going, do we all fold our arms and let these politicians, these our leaders, push us into the abyss? Some persons have to speak out. The starting point is, what always leads to getting to a stage where a strike action is embarked upon? The last year action started from about 2009. ASU National was negotiating with the federal government from 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013. Nobody was speaking then as we were speaking with the federal government. The case of Lasu, again, is on. When we started about 2 years ago, when the school fees was increased, Lasu voiced, Lasu voiced its opinion about the impact of this. But to avoid any problem of challenging a policy that has not been tested, we said, look, let's leave it and let's see how it goes. But after some time, it became clear that the system itself would not survive if we have to fold our arms and look at it.
But let's look at the success of strike actions.
In the past.
In the past, the 6-month strike that happened last year. How would you evaluate the success after all when you begin to look at the steps taken by the federal government relative to the demands of ASU?
Okay.
How would you describe the success?
I would say it was a very successful one. Very successful in this sense. We are in the system. We see the rot. We see the problem with infrastructures. The infrastructures are not there. You're having graduates that don't have chemicals, they don't have laboratories to use, and a group of persons says, no, we can't allow this to continue any further. The federal government has a responsibility to fund education, whether at federal level or state level. And that was the purpose of that last action. It had nothing to do with salaries for lecturers whatsoever. It is in the interest of the people, the students that were to produce.
So as we
and after that strike action, you could see what finally came out from the federal government. About 200 and something billion was supposed to be given out. Universities that are ready to access it have started to access it. And to that extent,
as Lasu access.
Lasu has 1.3 billion allocated to it against 2013. But as we speak, I am not sure we have accessed it because the institution is not ready to do what ought to be done in order to access that fund. The fund is waiting.
Okay.
The public, we took a survey of the public opinion when that strike was on. And the public said, look, go ahead with this action. But mark you, when you get the federal government to release the money, put in place mechanisms such that the administration of the various universities will not squander these funds in the usual manner that they do. And for that reason, mechanisms were put in place. For example, there is a monitoring committee at the national level. At the university level, each university, you have a budget monitoring committee that is to monitor the funds disbursed. This committee will comprise of various union members, governing council, members from the Senate. When that committee is formed, the minutes of meeting of that committee must be presented to the federal before each university can access the funds. ASU Lasu has written to the management, formed this committee, and we were told, it's none of your business. Now, you go to hunt in the bush, you kill a game, you bring it back home. Those at home says, it's none of your business how you monitor it. That's what we face. So Lasu has not been able to access
Lasu, which is a state government-owned university, are there other state-owned universities in Nigeria that have already accessed that fund?
Oh, I want to believe that there must be some, but I don't have the figures of head.
It's all right. Let's move away from there. The three core demands are reversal of high school fees regime, repeal of no vacancy, no promotion, and implementation of the University's Miscellaneous Provisions Amendment Act. What's the act about? What are the provisions under the act?
The act was made into law in 2012 at the federal level, and it has two components. The first component has to do with the tenure of principal officers. The principal officers are the vice chancellors, the librarian, the bursar, the registrar. It says that each of them will spend only a single term of 5 years. The vice chancellor will stay only a single term of 5 years, but the others will stay a single term of 5 years. Where found to have done well, they could have 1 additional year.
Okay.
And that law was made to avoid the problem of continuation in office that we have, just as we have with the politicians as well. Because history has shown that once there is a time to have a second term, this bickering comes in and there's always a problem. That's one aspect of that law. The second aspect says that members of academic staff that are on the professorial cadre shall retire at age 70. The non-academics shall retire at age 65. The professors are meant to retire at age 70 because professors are like wines. The older they are, the sweeter they become, just as it was done for judges. That was done for professors, so they could train other PhD holders, mentor people to come on. Experience showed that when they retire at 65, some are still not tired, though retired. You now find them in the private universities teaching 100-level courses, English 01, Physics 01, when they should be producing PhD holders, replicating themselves. That is the purpose of the law.
Well, if you take a look at the three core demands, apart from the hike in school fees, the other two seem to be based on the welfare of lecturers. Now, many have asked that possibly lecturers seem to be selfish in quotes, opinions from some quarters, that why would your welfare hinder continuity in education in a higher institution?
That would be a very unfair comment. That would be a very unfair comment. One, every animal is selfish, and human beings belong to the animal kingdom. But that is not the case in this situation. You will notice that the first of our demands is the high Lasu school fees. The first. And that is because the survival of the institution depends on these school fees. Our survival too. The purpose of a university is for the clientele. Who are the clientele? The students. Without the students, there is no institution at all. When you charge 250,000 naira and 350,000 naira for medicine, for school fees, I don't know how much you paid during your time. I paid less than 100 naira. I know that the governor of this state also paid less than 100 naira. The vice chancellor had free scholarship. So what makes us think that a state that is the richest in West Africa cannot fund education to make it free? Those are the issues, not simply the issue of no vacancy, no promotion. And if you look at the implementation of the Universities Miscellaneous Provisions Act, it is in the interest of the institution to have those that would train other professors like themselves and PhD holders. This is still in the interest of the students and this country, not in the interest of the lecturers alone.
We had the PRO of the university earlier in that report, and he says that you came up with about 21 issues, and out of which the management has met about 17 of them. And the idea of no vacancy, no promotion, he categorically stated that there are 256 vacancies declared, for ASU. How do we justify that with the strike action?
We are all educated. 256 vacancies out of a staff strength of about 700. The question to ask is, have we ever declared such in the past? Because there is an agitation now. Somebody comes up to say 256 vacancies. It's not true. And our demand is not simply declaring vacancies. No. We are saying that an institution is run by rules and regulations. We have a condition of service in place, and this condition of service has to be respected. We are saying that the issue of no vacancy, no promotion is alien to the system, and that clause should be out of the condition of service. And this can be settled within a week in-house. We ought not to be talking about a strike if there is the goodwill there.
It's okay. Moving away from there, there's already a reaction from the state government, and the governor is saying that the government is ready to resolve the ongoing crisis. And he's saying that lecturers should come and dialogue with government. What we want to ask, how much of dialogue did you have with management of the institution and the state government before declaring a strike action now?
Thank you very much. We are hearing this from the media. If you're discussing with a union and the feedback is only obtained from the media, I don't think that is logical. We don't have any single letter from government to show that the government is willing to dialogue. Did you
approach the government for dialogue?
Let me explain the process to you. The university runs thus. You have the management, you have the council, the governing council, and the governing council means the government in council. That means the governor, those that represents the governor. So when you are talking to those persons, you are already discussing with the governor of the state. We wrote 12 letters, I will have them listed here, to the governing council. 12, no response until the 12th one, which gave 7 days ultimatum.
So what was the response of the 12th letter that you got?
I didn't say response. I said not acknowledged. So a response didn't come into it at all. The letters were not even acknowledged. But let's go through the process we went through, because ASU is an organization that follows procedure. Our internal democracy, before you can get our members out on a strike, it's like passing through the eye of a needle. You've got to do so many things, and National must be convinced that you've exhausted everything you ought to do. We met with the university administration twice. The meetings were not conclusive. We were asked that they will reconvene, but since then, the university administration has avoided the union, because there was no answer to the issues.
Let's take a short break now to accommodate some discussions on the show. You're watching Cool Digest live from Lagos, and we're discussing the Lasu strike action. Lasu has been in the eye of the storm for a while. You recall earlier this year, the violent protest by students in that institution that resulted to a lot of damage to infrastructures. As a matter of fact, the Lagos state government was said to have spent about 51 million naira to address those issues. We'll take a short break now, and we'll be back with more. Don't go away.
From time immemorial, women have birthed life, shaped character, and by extension, influenced the society. Moremi of Ife, Emoten of Benin, Queen Aminat of Zaria, all women of influence and power.
Whether it's before election, after election.
How ironical. Women being so powerful, yet have few grounds in decision making.
They see you as a wife, and I see you as a wife to a man.
We are talking women in politics.
A woman will be bold enough to stand up and say, I want to become president of Nigeria.
Only on Core TV News.